The Toilet Paper Diaries comes to you live from Houston with Ernesto Verdugo and live from Dubai with Dave Crane. You are watching the Toilet Paper Diaries.
Hey, Dave.
Ernesto, busy day today. Incredible day today. I was going to say most of today was spent getting the show ready.
If we are going to be talking about the most vulnerable part of the population, which we call the Grey Panthers, I think we have to really do a great job. So I think this show is going to be fantastic. We have some great information, and we all have either the parent or the grandparent or the aunt or the uncle that it's in this generation. And I think also an important thing is just to understand that it is not only for the elderly, but I think you and I fit also in this category. I mean, it is about, we are not as strong as the previous generation, not the previous generation, but, the younger generations. And we also have to take care of ourselves. And this, of course, applies for everybody, which is young at heart. And this information that we're going to be sharing with you is amazing.
I think one thing to remember is we are living longer. Technology is better. Science and medicine is allowing us to live better. We also know the things that are killing us. And so more people are taking care of their bodies, exercising longer. And you realize that going to the gym is not about becoming fit. It's about extending your ability to stay with us. So what used to be, as you can see that curve there, do you want to explain the ages on the curve? You want to go through that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the idea is that right now the average life expectancy, it was about 82, 83. And right now we are going to about 100 by the time that we are at that age. So right now, I mean, the craziness that some of the people have been saying, well, for saving the economy, we're going to really not take care of the elders is just something that I find absolutely horrendous. So that's why I think it's very important that we talk about this subject, because it is just something which is really going on right now while we are in quarantine.
Absolutely. I think that one of the key things that comes to me is when you talk about euthanasia, which is a big issue in many countries when somebody gets really old and they want to go through cancer or whatever, do you let them go? And there's lots of legal reasons why that shouldn't happen, lots of moral reasons as well. And least at the top of the pile, the least reasons is to make the economy float better. That's utterly appalling to me. But we don't go down the route of politics and so on. But I think that one thing to remember is that the minute the grey hair starts appearing, we are now into that area where we're actually in our biggest hitting years from the age of about 45 to about 65. You're more capable of getting better business decisions because you've been around a lot longer, you've done a lot more, and you know what to do. So you become an expert in your industry at that age. So I don't think that people are going to retire in the same way they used to, because the average retiree lasts about 7 years, potting around in the garden, reading books. Because they don't have the reason to keep going, the body kind of shuts down. So it's been suggested by psychologists for many years never to retire, just go part-time into doing what you do and have a lot more time to yourself because it's not essential, which means you still earn, but you also have to keep yourself fresh so your body doesn't feel it's time to go to sleep. And I think that's key. So people are going to live to, they're saying about 120 by the time they use artificial nanotechnology to rebuild and 3D printers to rebuild different parts of the body. There's no reason why we can't extend it past 100 and beyond. So I think to say that it's like turning around to somebody who's 60 and saying, right, like Logan's Run, by the time you reach 25 or 35, we'll just let you go. It's better for everybody and for yourself. It's not the game. So today what we want to talk about is the isolation, more than anything, the challenges that the coronavirus has thrown at our elderly, which is anybody over 50, because they're more susceptible to the virus because it attacks anybody with a low immunity system, and also anybody who's got underlying factors that would be a way of not protecting them when they have problems with their lungs and problems with their breathing and so on.
And you know what? Today, this is actually the picture that I took today from the feed. This is really something very interesting. We're just about to hit 1 million people infected the coronavirus. And I think it's always interesting to keep an eye on what's going on, because still till right today, I mean, so we do not know how long it's going to take before actually this happens. As we were mentioning a little bit earlier on yesterday, that the people that went to spring break in Mexico, there were 28 people suddenly are now infected. Today, they were 40, and these ones were in Houston, Texas. And it's already very, very close for me. So that's yesterday I was watching the movie Contagion with Gwyneth Paltrow and Matt Damon. And I recommend you to watch it, because it will actually help you understand what is going on. And you can start seeing it in two different sides of the coin, which are incredible. First of all, the super populated cities like Hong Kong. You have some information on that, Dave.
Yeah, it's really scary. In Hong Kong, they say that there's been a spike going up again, despite the fact that it went through its worst. They had quarantine and it slowed down. And it's for a couple of reasons. First of all, you can see in the picture there on the right-hand side, that's what the apartment blocks can look like. And they're called coffin micro apartments. And those, everything you see there, everything that sticks out in your eye is a separate room which has a family living in it. On the left-hand side, you can see the size of these things. They're like 10 square foot with a small family living in there, cooking, sleeping, everything, recreation in there. And of course, there's no way of isolation. There's no way of isolation for you or the family next to you or anything like that. Now, a spike has come partly because of those conditions, and also because they didn't enforce in bars and restaurants to keep them empty, but they're doing that now with a huge fine of I think $6,500, which is about 50,000 Hong Kong dollars, to stop people. But they're also spiking because people returned from abroad back to their families with the virus. Now, I know that Emirates Airlines has kindly laid on some is laying on some emergency flights to bring families back together. One family in particular, they've had a maid looking after the daughter or the child for about a month because the parents were overseas and got caught. And so they're going to fly them back in. So I understand the importance of doing that. It's a really difficult time for everybody. So, I mean, the only thing to say from this is stay safe. And you really got to feel for people who their business model was to live in very small apartments to maybe run a shop or go to work or whatever it would be. And those guys are at the biggest risk, I think, around the world at this moment in time.
Yeah, it is absolutely crazy how packed the people in Hong Kong are. Let me just take a moment here to add a couple of comments from the people which are watching us live right now. Frank Mulcahy, which is one of our reporters, is telling us, well, now I can add Panther to my bio. And that is correct, Frank. That's very, very sweet. And we're also getting all the way from India, our also partner and also future correspondent, Gautam Ganglani. Hello, Ernesto and Dave. How are you both? And I would like to now talk of the other aspect of what Dave was talking about, which is the empty cities. And this is something that we don't really get to see, obviously, because we are safe at home. I would not like to say stuck at home. But this is very impressive. Have a look at how the cities in around the world look like.
It's a Monday afternoon, just landed from Dallas to Dubai, and it's so silent. Unbelievable. All due to coronavirus. Man, a lot has changed in 1 week.
Lunchtime, there's almost no foot traffic. It's crazy. This place is usually crowded and packed. It's like a ghost town here.
Delta terminal where there's virtually nobody here. I've never seen it this sparse. Look at, there's just nobody
Very
here.
scary. It reminds me of that movie I Am Legend, starring Will Smith, where a virus takes out everybody and he's wandering around New York State with a bow and arrow and his dog, avoiding lions and hunting gazelle and all sorts of stuff like that, because civilization has just disappeared almost overnight.
Yeah, it is eerie. I mean, if they would have told me that I was going to experience this in my lifetime, I would have never, ever believed it. And right now, it is something that is happening, and I think it's really shocking. I mean, look at San Francisco. I mean, it's just insane. And I mean, let's see some other Wuhan. That's Wuhan, completely empty. That's where everything actually got started. So it is very impressive. I mean, actually, it is something historic. I would like to actually mention that word again, because even though we are talking about something which is not very pleasant, is something that at some point we will be able to tell to future generations and to tell our grandkids. So it is a very interesting times that we're living, and we just need to understand how all things are working. Now, I would like to bring. We have a report live also from our correspondent in Berlin, Duncan Osborne.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Ernesto. This is Duncan Osborne live in Berlin, and as you can see, I'm standing at the very famous Brandenburger Tor. Over my right shoulder is the American Embassy, and here, over my carrying as we pan round, is the very famous Adlon Hotel. And as you can see, I'm on my own. There may be 5 people on the street. Ordinarily, this time of year, there would be thousands of people here. Germany is witnessing its most draconian laws for 75 years. Communities, families, businesses having to re-evaluate their place in the world. Today, the announcement was that Milan and Frankfurt and Paris and Berlin and London have the cleanest air today. Financing and the health and wealth of companies is about the future. Today, people are hankering down and asking themselves. Today is about planning. Ernesto and Dave, you both know what it's like to change and have yourself reinvent yourselves. You have been the most successful reinventors that I can understand. I know you both, and it's about the reinventing. And companies today are reinventing themselves just like you did, and you have done in the last 10-15 years. Companies are asking themselves, what am I and how am I going to be in the future? How will my customers interact with me? And it's about the financial wealth and health of those companies. The financing of those companies is vital to the success and of their futures. Ask yourself, how am I going to finance myself? This is Duncan Osborne, live in Berlin for the Toilet Paper Diaries. Back to you in the studio, gentlemen.
Thank you, Duncan. And I love that report. I think it's a very interesting report. We're also getting here a message from Gotham telling you, can you believe in Mumbai, a normally overcrowded city, we have peacocks on the empty street? So yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
We were in Mumbai, 3-4 weeks ago?
Correct.
And you couldn't move for just people everywhere. I mean, it's a really thriving, crazy, exciting place to be. And I can't even imagine the mindset that goes into people to say, I'm just staying in. And what we saw in Hong Kong with the very close apartments of people living together must be very similar to what people are experiencing in Mumbai. So I feel that for everybody, but you have to do it. So well done for sticking in and keeping it all close and not breaking it and getting out and connecting with people, because it's not good for anybody.
Yeah, it's incredible. Now, our friend Phil Bedford was posting this in Instagram, and it says there's an irony where the more we're told to socially distance, the more we strive to connect. And I think this is exactly what is going on. I mean, we're trying to connect in every way possible.
Well, Phil's an expert. It's called the Rebel Networker. He's an expert in how to make relations and connect with people to get more business done and so on. So this must be a nightmare for him because all the hard work would normally be closed down. But I mean, for many years, we've been talking about the digital side of it and social media and the need to connect with people. And you can connect with them all around the world and have friendships like that. So that's an extension that I think right now has never been as important as it is right now. I mean, if you take it back 10 years ago, if we had to face this without access to the internet, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, all the different artificial intelligence and all the different communication devices we have right now, I can't even imagine that we could have stopped this happening because so much of the awareness happens through social media, telling people to stay in and do social distancing and sending that warning. How do you send that warning in the old days when you couldn't do anything? If you couldn't connect with people and they didn't have a device to see these details, they'd just go whatever and carry on. Or is it a different type of person? Would people 10 years ago have just taken it from the police and stayed in? I don't know, but it's interesting to think about.
I mean, every day I find it fascinating just to see what is going on. I mean, as long as, of course, we don't have any civil unrest or anything like that, which I hope we will not get to that point. I think, I mean, we have to take this as an interesting experience because it's just crazy. Now, let me just share with you something which I think is also very funny. These kind of signs that people are putting in front of their door. Due to coronavirus, we are self-isolating. No one should enter except Keanu Reeves, Matthew McConaughey, George Clooney, and the firefighter guys that we get with puppies in the calendars. So
is that outside your house?
No, that's not on my house. There's just interesting things that I keep on seeing online. Or this one. This one is my absolute favorite meme of the day. I think it's just so true. I don't even say bless you when people sneeze anymore. I just stare at them like this.
I know, and the biggest challenge for anybody right now is, I mean, certainly the changing of the seasons. I mean, that you're going to sneeze right now in Dubai with air conditioning coming in, and it's quite cold outside. It's warming up a little bit. It's quite normal to have a flu just as a result of the changing of the inside temperature to the outside temperature. And so sneezing is just commonplace for about a month or so. But of course, that to everybody else sends a completely different signal. So it's important to be online to have a look at what the big differences are. You've got to look for the people who are making, for yourself, the self-diagnosis is if you've got a dry cough that's persistent for an hour and happens maybe 3 times a day, and also combined with a really hot temperature for no reason, anybody touching your back or touching your chest feels how hot you are, those tend to be the signs that things are going rapidly wrong with the coronavirus. But don't get confused with normal flu, normal colds, because they'll still be doing the rounds this time of year as well.
And right now, I think it's very important that we go to our most important segment of the day that we were going to be talking about. And that has to do a little bit of how we're actually catering for the Grey Panthers. And I would like to start with a really nice report that we got all the way from Sugar Land, Texas, from our partner and friend, Frank Mulcahy. He's right now live there in Sugar Land, and he's going to be sharing with us how a supermarket is actually helping the elderly. So let's go with you, Frank, if you're ready.
Good morning, Ernesto and Dave. Frank Mulcahy, Sugar Land again. Hey, we're at Food Town today. It's a local grocer down here, and what they've done is they've opened up their store from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Strictly for seniors over 60, which is a great concept because it is an at-risk group. And they can go in, get their groceries, social distancing, in and out, plenty of supplies, no pressure. And so I urge everybody out there, seniors, see if there's a couple grocery stores in your neighborhood that have early shopping hours. Another great hint, as I bought these plastic gloves online, you get about 100 pair for $3 or $4. And that way I wash down the carts, but I have the gloves on. And then I'll take the groceries, I'll put them in the garage, let them aerate for a day or two. So if there's any contaminants on the cardboard boxes. My daughter also had a helpful hint. If you ended up buying cereal and crackers and all that, take the the little package outside of the box, throw the box away, and then just put the contents in a plastic baggie, and that way if there's any contaminants, it's on the outside box and you've thrown it away. Back to you, Dave and Ernesto. Have a great day and be safe. We'll all get through this together.
Interesting report, Dave.
Absolutely. Look after yourself out there, Frank, as well. Thinking of you, my friend, and everybody else. And it's good to see that supermarkets are taking the chance to help people at different stages, so they can do it, whether they're doing it men, women, or looking after our older generation as well. I just want to make a shout out. I do it every single episode for the care workers and also the people who are in the services that probably do the most important job of anything. We wouldn't have supermarkets, we wouldn't have clean streets. I mean, we wouldn't have all the things that we've got now, which are the only things, let's face it, keeping us alive, if it wasn't for all the staff that far too many people ignore. Right now, some guys brought some water to our house, big jugs of water for our water dispenser. But if these guys who normally don't get respect that they should do, they're our lifeline. Not the billionaires, not the people with tons of money who are saying, right, we're building your economy. It's the people who are often seen as the lowest level, or the people who just, oh yeah, they got a job. Well, they're lucky to have one. Without them, we wouldn't be here. So I think it's time to give everybody respect. When you go shopping, when you see somebody who's out there working because it's their job, without them, we wouldn't be here. So please remember that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's always very important to acknowledge. I mean, here in the States, whenever you see somebody in uniform, you always say thank you for your service. I think it would be very nice if you right now see somebody which is working and keeping everything together, that you also acknowledge them and tell them thank you for your service. So let's move on, Dave. And you have some really cool information about AI and how it's been implemented. So if you want to share it briefly, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that's been really important. And because today's episode is all about our great Panthers and the older generation, is an experiment that's been done in the UK to use smart speakers, artificial intelligence, to combat loneliness amongst older people. Now, when I say oldness amongst lonely people, this article is about this, but this also extends to anybody who's on their own anywhere in the world, because you have access to a number of different things. You may have a smart speaker like Google Home or Amazon's Echo, Alexa. If you don't have it, you can order them because they're very interactive. In the pictures you can see there, the yellow Tweety Pie looking thing there is called Mabu. And it's a robot virtual care assistant. You can get them in the US. And what they do is they check on the well-being of older people and make sure that they're taking their meds. You can also get a similar thing in Asia called a Dinsao. And what that does is it's got a tablet for a face. And so on there, you can watch videos. Family can use it as a way of doing streaming calls, video calls as well. But here's what I wanted to mention about these things, because they're so important. And if you don't have it, then Siri can do a job for you as well. They allow you to get past the challenge of living on your own and the loneliness that affects it. Now, let me tell you about the dangers of loneliness, first of all. If you are on your own, it can be as dangerous to you as taking 15 cigarettes a day or being actually physically obese from overeating. The level of pressure it puts on you for longevity is that bad. So here's why these smart speakers are really good. And right now we know that they just kind of interact with you with a robot voice as best as they possibly can. And it's interesting, yesterday, the voice of Siri in the English voice of Siri was one of our guests yesterday, John Briggs in the UK. We had a report from him. But what you can do with these things is you can ask them to tell you jokes. You can get them to play your favorite music. You can ask them any question and they'll answer you. They'll find podcasts for you. If you've connected them to your home and your TV, they can find stuff to play for you there. But they can also answer you by name when you program them. Now, the challenge for older people is they tend not to be very tech savvy. And so they don't naturally want to play with these kind of devices. But those that do, it's incredibly rewarding and worth thinking about. And there are people who turn around and have some challenges. First of all the data that gets brought out onto these devices, what happens to that? But a lot of the people experimenting and looking at it are saying there's no cloud upgrade. There's nowhere that the data is being kept. It's literally just to look after people. So the smart data is a bit of an issue. And also the fact that it doesn't really substitute for a real person. But the very fact that it's there and talking to you, as opposed to being on your own, is still a very useful thing to have. So I'd recommend for anybody, if you are on your own, it's even worth, I mean, these things come to like, I don't know, $100 or so. You can get onto Amazon, you can get onto wherever delivery service and get a smart speaker brought to you. You connect it to the internet, it doesn't take too long to do, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then you've got a friend in your apartment who you can talk to. And after a while, it becomes natural. It doesn't substitute real people, but it helps.
Yeah, right now I have seen several ads that are actually showing right now online, and I thought it was great to see it, because one of the challenges is that we say, well, my grandma or my grandpa will not be able to operate the iPad or will not be able to operate the phone. What is great about these devices is that actually they're voice operated. So let me just show you what's the advertising that Amazon Echo Show is actually showing online right now. You're going to find it very endearing and very sweet.
Look, Grandpa, I got you the Echo Show. You can ask it to play music or check the weather. Valerie. Alexa, at 6 p.m., remind Grandpa your favorite dessert's in the fridge.
Okay, I'll set a reminder.
Alexa, play the song that goes Valerie.
Well, sometimes I go out by myself and I look across the water.
Sweetheart.
And for many people who've lost their partners as well, not even if lost their partners, might be living with their partner, luckily now, but if you lost your partner, then you need to have somebody interacting. Right now, care workers can't visit you. Family and friends, grandchildren, the things that normally keep your day active have got to be done on video if you've got them to talk to. And so having something like that in your apartment is very useful. And I think from a business perspective, this will also grow the importance of Google voice search. And if you're running a business and you're wanting to grow what your own business does, it's really worth thinking about creating articles, videos that will show up in searches to answer questions. I know that Gary Vaynerchuk has been doing this for many years because of the importance of that. I think the coronavirus will drive that really to the forefront as a really valuable way that people will be doing their searches in the future.
Yeah, correct. Right now, and on the other aspect, on the other side of the coin, of course, they are the grandkids for the older people, and this is a very endearing video that actually it is about how to explain your kids that you cannot actually see grandma and grandpa.
Will Grandma and Grandpa be okay?
We do know that the virus actually can impact folks that are a little older. So we want to make sure that you're staying as healthy as you possibly can. And if you do get sick or are feeling ill in any way, or any of your family members are feeling ill, is not to be around Grandma and Grandpa for a little while. The other thing that's really important to do, make sure you're washing those hands. So when you do visit, even if you're feeling good, a good hand hygiene and making sure everything's clean before you visit, it will be really important.
So yeah, that is some of the things which are happening. We, Dave, you were showing to me something which is happening right now also, which is they calling the dance parties, the lockdown dance parties, or
the block parties. Yeah, block parties where you keep a safe distance, but the whole street gets their speakers out or gets their music or gets their musical instruments, and before it gets dark, they start playing music and dancing and having fun that goes all the way up the street, and they do it at the same time every day. And it's really quite a beautiful way of bringing people together. So let's have a look at how it's been done. I think that's in Austin, Texas.
Well, since we've all been asked to stay at home, we determined as a neighborhood we wanted to see each other, and the notion is that at 7:30 every night we gather on the street at a safe distance and we dance together to dance our worries away. My name is Ben Kramer. Here I have my son Fernando and my daughter Sofia. And tonight is the front porch dance-off.
All right, who's up next? We're the Burmese family, and we're here on Anton Street in New York. We have great neighbors, great block. We get together for Thanksgiving. We get together for all the other holidays, so it just makes sense to gather for an event like this.
So we are the Late Shaw family. We just feel like it's so important for us to stay connected and yet safe.
That is awesome. That is really cool.
Yeah, dance off. That's beautiful. And the thing is, it'll bring the community closer together. For when this is all over, and it will be over, those same people will turn that into barbecues and play dates and all sorts of things. So it in many ways, in adversity, it does bring people together. I remember it used to be a thing that my grandparents would talk about, that after the Second World War, and there's been more since that, but in the UK, saying that during the Second World War, it brought a community together because everybody forgot all the things that separated them and just made them go under one roof and one idea, which is we will get through this. And I think that is clear evidence that it is happening, which is a beautiful thing in a terrible time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? There's even some of these which are announced online. This is one from our friend Mike Koenigs with his wife, Vivian Glick. They are putting together a Saturday night feverless party, and they actually give you the time. Where is it going to be? It's going to be actually this Saturday, April 4th. And I love that actually communities are getting organized to actually get these activities together. It's really, really very, very cool. Okay, so now to finish our episode today, I wanted to share with you just quickly different ways in how you can understand how each of us communicate digitally, because not because you're using one platform or another platform, that means that you're going to be communicating with every single generation. So it is important for us to know this information because we are going to cross-generationally communicate throughout this time. So first of all, we were talking about our great Panthers, and all of us, including us, we are digital immigrants, and that is just an important thing that we need to take into consideration. Now, there's two kinds of people: digital immigrants and digital natives. Digital natives are the millennials and the Generation C, which are the people that were born specifically on the times that the internet was already there. Everyone else is a digital immigrant, so that means that we are digital immigrants. And that's one of the things that we need to understand, because we see the world in a complete different way. So let's just quickly check how is the baby boomer generation, for example. How does the baby boomer generation communicate? Because they communicate in a different way than the other generation. So if we see the baby boom generation, the first thing, if you want to communicate with this generation, the best way to communicate with them is through SMS, sending them messages through Facebook Messenger, and also through email. If we would like to know how the millennials like to communicate, it's also very important that we know that the best way to communicate with millennials is through WhatsApp, Instagram, Messenger, Facebook, and last is going to be email. If you want to communicate with people like me and Dave, which is Generation X likes communicating, first of all, through WhatsApp. If you're not in WhatsApp because you're in the United States, make sure to get WhatsApp, because you have to be able to communicate using this tool. Then Instagram, Facebook, Messenger, and email. And please also, our latest generation, which is Generation C, the way that they communicate is with WhatsApp or Messenger, more than anything, Instagram. Yes, they love YouTube, TikTok, and all these other platforms that you see there. So one of the recommendations is, if you have never heard of these different platforms, I recommend that you take some time right now that we are in quarantine, so that you can actually learn how to use these platforms. And Dave, I think we have really covered a ton of information during this show.
So with that, thank you to our contributors. And we've got an incredible show tomorrow for you as well. And look after yourselves, stay safe, and connect with everybody. And just for the next 24 hours and beyond, if you know somebody who's slightly older, on their own, just connect. Doesn't matter if they're not your parents or your friends, they'll appreciate it. It's time to bring the world together, just like our hashtag, all about hashtag Never Alone Tribe.
Absolutely. Hashtag Never Alone Tribe. Hey, Dave, we are forgetting, before we actually leave, there were so many things that we were covering that it was actually difficult to do this, but we have some really cool news for everybody. And that is that all our episodes are right now on podcast. So if you haven't had a chance to watch the episodes and you're more of a listener instead of a watcher, just go to bit.ly TP Diaries podcasts. And all of our episodes are going to be there for you to listen. I mean, we're trying to provide you with news. We're trying to provide you with information from around the world, with educational pieces, with lots of really great information. And we thought that podcasts were going to be the most effective way to do it.